Going to call to order the regular school board meeting, today, September 13th. Let the record show that 4 board members are present, and we will begin. Mr. Tutton, principal of Eastwood, will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Fensel will read our mission.
I'll read the mission statement. The mission of Washington Township Schools is to develop lifelong learners and globally minded citizens by fostering the academic, creative, and social skills needed to achieve excellence in a multicultural environment.
Thank you. Next, we will have December recognitions.
Yes, good evening, President George Davis, members of the board, Dr. Woodson. I'm excited tonight to recognize some members of our school communities. Is Eleanor McCorkle-Singley here tonight yet? Okay, not yet. So I'm going to skip her just in case she shows up momentarily here. What about Miss Julia Mays Rubio? Miss Julia, are you here? Yes. Would you go stand before Dr. Woodson right there? We'd like to say congratulations to Miss Julia Mays Rubio. She's our North Central E&L coach who received a surprise recognition by Hensley's Legal Group. Hensley for Teachers, which is a new community giving initiative by Hensley Legal Group, where a selected panel from their team reviews submissions and selects an outstanding teacher every month. Ms. Mays Rubio was nominated and selected to receive a $500 gift card to use however she pleases and will be featured on Hensley Legal Group's digital billboard. So congratulations, Julia, and thanks for being here this evening. All right, next we'd like to recognize Miss Nicole Carney. Please join Dr. Woodson in the front. Congratulations to Miss Nicole Carney, world language teacher at Eastwood Middle School. Miss Carney was named the K-8 World Language Teacher of the Year in Indiana on Friday, November 3rd at the Indiana Foreign Language Teachers Association Conference, presented by the Indiana chapter of the American Association of Teachers of Spanish and Portuguese. So congratulations, Ms. Carney.
Yes.
All right. Mr. and Mrs. Burge, would you please join Dr. Woodson in the front? North Central class of '89 alumnus Tag Burge and his wife, Marta Burge, are providing $1 million to establish an endowment in support of English as a new language programming at North Central High School. This incredible endowment will help to expand the E&L program at North Central, providing additional resources to the E&L department faculty and expanding opportunities that support the unique learning needs of our multilingual learners. Additionally, the endowment will support an annual recognition award given to a North Central High School student who has excelled in their E&L journey. In honor of this transformational gift, and to express the district's gratitude to the Burge family for their significant support, the newly renovated North Central High School auditorium will now be known as the Burge Auditorium, and a dedication program was held earlier in December. This evening, not only does our school board and superintendent extend deep appreciation to Mr. and Mrs. Burge for their extraordinary generosity, but our entire Washington Township Schools executive leadership team is here as well to extend appreciation. And I would like to ask them all to stand at this time. Mr. and Mrs. Burge, we appreciate your support of public schools and especially appreciate the long-term impact this will have on Washington Township students. So thank you very much for being here this evening, and thank you very much for this generous gift.
Thank you.
One more time, do we have Eleanor here this evening? Is Eleanor here? All right, well, maybe we'll have to move that to the next board meeting. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, President George Davis.
Thank you, Dr. Next on the agenda, we will have the swearing in of officer. So if the officers can join me in the front. our school spotlight. This month, we will be spotlighting Eastwood Middle School, Mr. Tutton.
Good evening, President George Davis, members of the school board, and Dr. Woodson. Thank you for having me here this evening. It's a great honor to represent the Eastwood community and share progress on our school up to this date. And so we'll get right into it. The first thing I would like to share with you are our points of pride, of which we have many. And so I will abbreviate these, but we'll start with some of our staff recognitions. Our PE teacher, Lucia Darling, this year was recognized by the Life Smart Youth as the 2023 Middle School Teacher of the Year for her support and professional contributions to the health of our students. And we're excited to have her on our team. As you have all learned this evening, our world language teacher and Spanish teacher, Nikki Carney, won this year's World Language Teacher of the Year award through the IFLTA, another great accomplishment. Our math teacher, Kim Matsuoka, is up for, and we are crossing our fingers and hoping for a successful entrance into the Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching. We'll learn more about that later on this school year. Additionally, one of the initiatives we started last year was to provide in-service by our teachers for our teachers. And as a result, we have had this year 14 different staff members present professional development sessions within our school over the course of the last 3 months to help build their capacity as leaders and also help our staff grow with the Elevate framework. In regard to our students are able to participate in a number of our leadership and mentoring experiences that we have been adding over the last couple of years, which include but are not limited to the Teach One to Lead One organization, National Junior Honor Society, Leadership Academies, Advisory Council, and more. Additionally, Eastwood and our other middle schools are offering a Project Lead the Way course called Medical Detectives, which has become very popular with our students. In this class, they get to play on the role of an investigator, learning about various medical experiences, utilizing various elements of science to determine and diagnose different things. Most recently, they did a brain dissection of a sheep, and it was pretty interesting and exciting for our students. Our athletic recognitions for the fall include, but are not limited to, both our boys and girls cross-country teams winning the Marion County Championships, our boys cross-country team winning conference championships, and our boys tennis team winning their conference as well. Our community as a whole has grown this year. Eastwood has provided block parties, which are quarterly excursions of our staff into our community. This September, we went into 3 different neighborhood apartment complexes to build the bridges to form stronger relationships with our families. In this, we had members of our teaching staff bring games, donuts, and more information about how they can be involved in their students' success at school. And one of the things that we are very excited about is the incredible growth of partnerships. Eastwood has been working hard to grow these community entities within our school, and I have a long list of those partnerships listed in the slide deck that you should have. Regarding the equitable achievement, we are currently in our winter testing phase. We are completing our NWA for math this week, and we are anxious to hear how our students have grown since we received them in the fall. But what we do have is data from the iLearn of this past year and the fall benchmark. And you can see our math proficiency has increased in iLearn and in science as well. our strongest middle school proficiency of English, math, and science across the middle schools. In our fall NWA data, you'll notice that we had a slight increase in our fall to fall data, and our reading data increased as well, most notably from spring to fall with an increase of 8.91%. We attribute this to and the improvement of our staff to some of the initiatives we've taken on this year. One of the things that has changed is we are moving to a learning walks process, which is a change from what we used to do, which was peer-to-peer observations. In learning walks, what we're doing is we're establishing a manner for teachers to go see other teachers with coaches or department chairs, and then process through their learning that they have encountered in that new classroom. Additionally, our master schedule change for this year has allowed for more instructional minutes to be devoted to math and English. Students are now meeting daily between 65 and 72 minutes in these courses. And it has allowed for purposeful collaboration for all of our English and math teachers as they share common preps each day. Additionally, various supports for these classes, such as special education teachers and our ENL teachers, have more time to co-plan and build purposeful instructional plans for co-teaching in our Tier 1 environments. Small group instruction is another thing that we have improved upon. This additional time in these courses has allowed for more opportunities for students to receive smaller instruction. And so our students are being pulled in, particularly in their English classes, into small groups. And we're improving in what these delivery of instruction looks like in these sessions over the course of this year. Having said that, we still have work to do in small group instruction. Most notably, we're hoping to have improvement in Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions in our English and math classes. And we'll be working diligently on that our second semester. We are also growing in our co-teaching model. And so now that we have a common planning time and more regularly provided supports in our English and math classes, our teachers are trying to figure out and negotiate the relationship between the lead teacher and the special education teacher or the ENL teacher that might be in that class. And so we're growing in this area, and we look forward to what that might look like by the end of the year. And we're also increasing our use of culturally responsive teaching strategies. This is an effort that we have spent time the last several years growing, trying to get more students held accountable at high levels for participation and engagement in the lessons. When we look at other things to specifically bring about closure of the racial achievement gap, two very notable ones that are in practice in almost all of our classes and in all of our social studies classes are the use of AVID Wicker implementation. AVID is not new to Washington Township. At Eastwood, it has been growing over the last 5 or 6 years, and we are dedicated to what this looks like in the classroom. The Wicker acronym stands for Writing, Inquiry, Collaboration, Organization, and Reading. And in each of these classes, you'll see students working diligently at growing their understanding of that content through that framework. Our social studies department has taken on the standards of our English department to incorporate many of those efforts in their nonfiction readings. And you'll notice them utilizing frameworks that you would normally find only in an English class regularly in their social studies class, which has been an effort that we have attempted to make for the last couple of years. And we're very pleased with how it's going at this point. At this point, I would like to transition to our recognitions. And so the recognitions are a very special part of this presentation, and we're excited to bring these before you. The first recognition I'd like to bring to you is for our social justice advocate student recognition. And so at this time, Felicity, if you could come up to the front. Felicity Beck is a 6th grader at Eastwood Middle School, and she's part of a group of students who are developing their leadership skills through our partnership with Luke's Leaders and ProAct. On Saturday, November 11th, Felicity volunteered to assemble hygiene kits that were then donated to the Second Presbyterian Church's community pantry for families in need. She generously gave up 3 hours of her weekend, which is a lot for a sixth grader. She got up early and she went out and did the work. When asked about the experience, she commented that she really enjoyed it and got a lot from it. As a sixth grader, Felicity consistently demonstrates generosity and leadership. Just talk to her teachers. They are quick with a smile. And we appreciate her desire to make the world a better place. Thank you so much, Felicity. Congratulations. Our second recognition is for the Above and Beyond Parent Recognition, and it goes to Megan Hamilton, but she was unable to be here. So I'm just going to read this quick blurb, and then we'll move on to our final recognition. Megan has been a parent volunteer at Eastwood since her oldest son, Spencer, who is now a senior at North Central, was a student at Eastwood. She works our front desk each week and coordinates the various other parent volunteers to take on this very important role in our building. We appreciate her willingness to give back to our school and community in this fashion. Thank you, Megan. For our supportive partnership recognition, we have two groups that we'd like to recognize. The first one is Kelly Taylor from State Farm Insurance. We received a call from Kelly earlier this year, out of the blue. She reached out to our social worker with a deep desire to help our students. Kelly made a very generous donation to help pay off the accounts of students who had charges on their lunch accounts. And we are very excited for our future and the partnership that we'll continue to have. And thank you so much for the gift. Next, I'd like to welcome Steve and Liz Jewell. Kelly started a domino. I don't know if she knows this, but when one of our front desk volunteers heard about the gift that Kelly had made towards our school and realized that there was an additional need, they reached out to their pastor, Pastor Garrett Edwards, who is unable to be with us this evening, and asked if there was work that they could do to support our students. The Northview Church congregation delivered. They showed additional goodwill towards our Eastwood students. A collection was taken and a gift was made to contribute and to continue to support our students and pay off those balances that remained. Here to represent that generous gift and Pastor Edwards and the Northview congregation is Steve and Liz Jewell. Thank you so much for the gift. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Tutton. Now we will have superintendent's announcement.
Thank you, President George Davis. Good evening, everyone. In your announcements this evening, we have a literacy update from our elementary team. We know there's a lot of conversation from changes downtown and the Department of Education, and a lot of questions right now about our elementary literacy program. So the flyer is a highlight that's been shared with parents. It also has a link to the webinar that was held this fall that gives informative information to any stakeholder who's interested in our literacy programming in our elementary schools. So I certainly wanted to get that in the board's hands. Also have included in your board documents the legislative updates from our various organizations supporting our legislative work. Mrs. Dills has her final report for her consultation on our DEI work this past semester, along with some highlights for your review. I also have, if you can believe it or not, the 24-25 school board meeting schedule, because you will be voting on that at the first board meeting in January at your reorganization. So if there are any major concerns with anything on that schedule, please let the president know before winter break so that we can work on that. And last to end tonight, I do have several kudos, lots of the information about the kudos in your board documents, but a kudos is included for Officer Evans for great work being done there. We have a kudos details about e-learning that's happening at Allisonville Elementary. We have a kudos for communications improvement to our non-resident families, and we have hundreds of them. Mr. Doss has taken that over, and a kudos came in for his work there. And lastly, a kudos came in from a new teacher to me at Crooked Creek this year, and it really just spoke to my soul. So I'm certain that you would be equally thrilled to see the comments from a brand new teacher at Crooked Creek this year as well. With that, I would love to just wish everyone for all of the wonderful ways we celebrate this time of year with our families, a wonderful time with your loved ones.
Now we will have comments from the public. Just a reminder that the duration of comments is limited to 3 minutes per person, with total public comment not to exceed 21 minutes. Board members will not respond or engage to comments, and no participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all those who wish to speak on it.
Thank you. Jerry Phillips, 7102 Allisonville Road. Sorry about that. I was going through some old stuff, for lack of a better word, and I stumbled onto a couple of different letterhead designs from the past, and from a zillion years ago when my kids were in school. But and one of them that kind of jumped out at me was this one that had risk taker, these traits: risk takers, knowledgeable, open-minded, caring, inquirers, balanced, principled, thinkers, reflective, communicators. And I thought about that, and most of those are about teaching youth to think, not what to think. And it kind of caught me, and I wanted to share that with the board to continue to remember that the focus of Washington Township School Board is to make sure that we are educating youth, not all the other secondary things that third things and fourth things that get caught up in there, but that every decision you make should be focused on what is educating the youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Not, we'll move towards the approval of the consent agenda.
President George Davis, I'd like to throw a curveball your way. If the board so approves, we do have our first recognition of this evening is here this evening. So before I get into the consent agenda, I would like to take this opportunity to invite Eleanor McCorkle-Singley to join Dr. Woodson up at the front area. So we want to say congratulations to Spring Mill Elementary School fourth grader Eleanor, who was awarded third place recently in the fourth grade student essay competition featured by Playing in Indiana, the Indiana State House Tour Office, in conjunction with the Indiana Center for the Book, holds an essay competition to commemorate Indiana Statehood Day each year. Indiana's 207th birthday was December 11th of this year. Winners of the essay contest were honored at a Statehood Day celebration. The Statehood Day essay contest takes place annually in the fall and is open to all Indiana fourth graders. All Indiana students are taught Indiana history as part of their fourth grade curriculum. And the essays are judged by a panel of Indiana State Library staff and volunteer educators. So let's give it up for Eleanor.
Congratulations, awesome work.
Thank you, board, for that exercise and flexibility this evening. I'll proceed with the consent agenda. The consent agenda this evening includes approval of the minutes of the November 15th, 2023 board meeting and the memorandum of the November 27th, 2023 executive session. Approval of 3 payroll calculation summary reports, a claims docket in the amount of $21,848,762.15, a special personnel item in accordance with Indiana Code 20-26-5-11.2, a human resources report containing for classified personnel 14 new hires, indicated numbers 144 through 157, 10 resignations, numbers 80 through 89, 1 termination, that's number 15. For certified personnel, we have 1 new appointment, number 106, 1 resignation, numbers 84, 2 retirements, numbers 1 and 2, and then 2 maternity, child rearing, or adoptions, that's numbers 9 and 10. There is 1 non-competitive grant to present for board approval this evening. The fiscal year 2024 IDEA Part B 611 conditional grant application. Allocation amount is $2,912,217.85. And the proportionate shared amount is $408,298.20. There are no grants, gifts, or donations to present for board approval. So at this time, I'll turn it back over to President George Davis for approval.
If there are no questions, I move approval of the consent agenda as presented by Dr. Taylor.
I'll second.
Been moved in properly second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 4-0. Now we will move on to our action items. First up is approval of a revised fuel pricing contract. Ms. Pulaski.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Woodson, and members of the board. I'm here to present the ratification of our diesel contract with Co-Alliance, and you do have documents in your board docs. In recent history, transportation is paid for fuel as dictated by market rates at the time of fuel load delivery. We typically receive fuel 2 to 3 times per month. In the course of a year, there is fluctuation in the market variability on pricing. Due to this being the case, transportation has been reliant on whatever market value was at any given point. Thus, transportation has been seeking an opportunity to lock in fuel prices when market conditions were low to justify this approach. We are seeking approval to lock in the price of $2.88 per gallon, plus the required SET, state excise tax, which is currently 57 cents per gallon. On average, our cost in 2022 was $3.49 per gallon of fuel plus SET tax of 54 cents per gallon on average. This would be, the total financial impact would be $399,456 plus the state excise tax per gallon, and the funding source would be the operations fund. A little bit more background as far as our price of fuel per gallon. 5 cents per gallon covers the operational cost to deliver the fuel, the driver costs, et cetera. And then there is an upsell by Co-Alliance of 2 cents per gallon. That's their profit. So if we're looking at an average, just to kind of give you an example, at 3.49 times the 138,700 gallons in a 6-month period in 2022, we would have paid $484,063, and that's not including the tax. As opposed to now at 288, we're looking at the 399, 456, which means we have a cost savings of $84,607. A little bit of some background as well. In your board docs, you also have the contract that was signed for 21, 22. Those were locked in, I believe, at 1 load per month, but we also have to keep in mind that this was still that pandemic era. So we weren't running buses nearly as much as we are running buses now. And then also more drivers equals more fuel. So our goal is still to have 115 drivers if possible, and we're currently sitting at about 92. So, and that's all I have for you. Any questions?
Wording.
The term, I was just curious, I was just looking, I didn't see it exactly. This price would lock in for what period of time? Do you know offhand?
It is from November through May,
Or May? Okay.
and it's basically 3 loads per month with the exceptions of January, because we know we're not running buses from that end of December, beginning of January as much, and then also May, and then we look at it.
Thank you.
I appreciate the average you gave us, for the past. Do you happen to know, like, what's the market rate today?
It changes literally every hour. So I could not tell you that right now. It's one of those things that you have to very much act fast upon.
So, I'm sorry. So just on the timing, you said this contract, this will run basically or the cost, it basically covers November to May?
To May,
Okay,
correct.
and so then will you be coming to us again for those months, June, July, August, September? So it's a 6-month basically.
Basically, it's a 6 months, and then we start monitoring again and see what fuel costs
And
are.
we anticipate that this, the 399, 456 plus the set will be about the same in 6. I mean, I guess you can't really predict it.
You can't really predict it. And then also in the summer, because we're not running buses as we are during the school year, we don't want to lock into, let's say, 3 loads of fuel per month. We're not going to use it.
So for a whole year, we could be looking at least $160,000 in savings by going this. If you look at if you add the 2 6 months together.
Possibly, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
If there are no further questions, I move approval. Approval of the revised fuel pricing contract as presented by Ms. Payasio.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Next, we have the joking president. Approval of recommendation of.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Woodson, and members of the board. I am here tonight seeking your review and approval of our recommendation of new high school courses for the 2024-25 school year. North Central High School seeks to increase opportunities for students to access rigorous and relevant content through additional course offerings in the English and science departments. You have information about these 3 courses in your board docs, and I am happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I'm guessing, do you already have teachers in mind to be able to cover them?
Yes, these are
Any changes?
correct.
Take effect next summer?
School year, yes.
And those courses that are at Credits obviously are full year semester.
That's correct.
And do you have to take the first semester prerequisite to take the first?
Yes.
Madam President, I move that we approve the recommendation for new high school courses for the next school year as presented by Dr. Seaver.
Been moved and properly second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Same sign. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, Dr. Next, we have the approval of the Halo Smart Sensor proposal. Dr. Taylor.
Yes, good evening again, President George Davis, members of the board, and Dr. Woodson. I am seeking approval this evening of a Halo Smart Sensor proposal that is attached to your board docs for review. Through our ERS wireless, we already contract for other of our Motorola products like our radios and our visual camera systems that are synced to our desktops and laptops. The Halo Smart Sensors, what they are, they're real-time vape detections and security devices that help with vape and THC detection, as well as air quality monitoring. Additionally, these sensors are capable of using generative artificial intelligence that allows for alerting specified supervisory groups like administration and or school resource officers when restrooms reach a certain number of student occupancy as prescribed in the initial setup of these devices. Once Halo detects or senses a threat or senses vaping, users will be alerted through an instant automatic notification through a text or voice to text alert, enabling staff to quickly respond to the problem area. North Central would like to pilot a dozen devices strategically placed throughout North Central for the purposes of reducing vape use in our high school. The total financial impact is $24,209.03. The funding source for this is coming out of our Jewel Settlement Fund. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have regarding these Halo Smart Sensor devices.
Will these be obvious to the students? Will they know where they are?
They will not be obvious. They will look very much like a smoke alarm system does traditionally right now.
Will they primarily be placed in restrooms or will they be in various locations?
They will be placed in restrooms for right now. Yes, we have highlighted specific restrooms where we are concerned that there are heavier usage of vaping occurring in high school.
Thank you.
More questions?
I had a comment. Just a comment that I wanted to note that the district yesterday received a check, the first check on the Jewel settlement of $94,900. And we expect future checks to come in over time.
There's no further questions. I move that we approve the Halo Smart Sensor proposal as presented by Dr. Taylor.
I'll second.
Been moved and properly second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Next up is the approval of fees.
Need to pull that one up. Sorry. Give me 1 second here. I'll take it. I'm just logging in here real quick. Sorry. Talk amongst yourselves. Here we got it. All right, thank you again, President George Davis, members of the board, Dr. Woodson. I am seeking approval of the fees related to the continued lobbying efforts with Marion County Advocates for Children in collaboration with Decatur, Lawrence, Perry, Pike, Warren, and Wayne Townships. The lobbying services under this engagement will be as follows. First of all, it assists advocates for Marion County children in developing legislative strategies for effectively advocating its interests. And second, it works to monitor all legislation introduced during the legislative session that may be adverse to, supportive of, or otherwise related to advocates for Marion County children's interests. You have had details to review in the support document attachments for this action item. The total financial impact is $13,940.43. It's coming out of the education fund listed there before you. Again, this is not new. We have done this in the past. We have found that this support is becoming increasingly important when we look at legislations that's coming out that we can get in front of and either support or advocate against. And so we appreciate your review and support of approving this action item.
Thank you. What was attached was kind of just an invoice that doesn't really have a lot of details. So I did have a few questions. The first is who's actually doing the lobbying?
We have a lobbyist who under transition, so we are working on actual person with the superintendent
Okay, so we don't know who it's actually going to be yet.
from this firm, but the actual lobbyist, I don't know how public.
Okay, what's the firm? Can you say the firm?
I will get that. The money will go together with the other districts and then we're gonna make a decision. I can tell you, everything will be on the table as we review how to use these funds and who to go with.
And who, you may have kind of already answered this, but who from, so I understand this is a collaboration with other districts. Who from the district kind of is sitting at the table where those decisions are made?
All superintendents.
Okay, so it's the superintendents. Okay.
What happens is every Friday, we have pre-session meetings, post-session meetings, and during session, every single Friday morning, all superintendents meet with our designated lobbyists to talk about issues, what's hot off the press, what's being modified, what's coming up. We give them data points, stories from our districts to share. Where is that person going to go behind closed doors to have conversation? What modifications can suggest? All of that is done on a weekly basis during session, and then maybe every other month outside of session.
Thank you. That answers my question.
I should say, outside of those meetings, my team knows I go to them when it has impact on areas that they oversee to but all of us do that and bring that.
If there's no further questions, I move approval of the fees for advocates of Marion County Public Schools as presented by Dr. Taylor.
Second.
Been moved and properly second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, Dr.
All right, thank you.
Next, we have the approval of the Zello College Career Readiness Platform.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Woodson, and board members. I am here seeking your approval of Xylo College and Career Readiness Platform proposal. For the past several years, middle school and high school counselors have utilized the Naviance College and Career Readiness Platform to engage students in career exploration during individualized advising sessions, counselor-led classroom lessons, and middle school advisory lessons. Naviance has also been used to process all college applications. School counselors submit documentation to college on students' behalf. Teachers submit letters of recommendation and more. And while Naviance has supported our college and career readiness effort in recent years, it has not been ideal. So we have found that the platform has not been very effective, not intuitive. The middle school curriculum provided, the platform has not been provided. Engaging curriculum or content that is relevant to adolescent needs, and other products have been developed that provide enhanced features of school staff and students alike. So our contract with Naviance ends this spring, which is good news. So our district lead school counselor, Jennifer Dodson, led a small group of high school and middle school counselors in search of other platforms. After exploring 4 products, we decided that the best option to suit our needs would be Zillow. And we chose Zillow for multiple reasons, and I've highlighted some of the key elements. So for example, the first one is the interface is easy to use and it is appealing to our young students. And the career exploration and college search tool are a lot more robust than what we have right now. And it has, the one that we really like is it has an easy to use Spanish translation feature that our Spanish multilingual learners and their family have easy access to. So for those reasons, we like to move forward with Zillow. And another good news is we negotiated the price to make sure that we're not spending more than we are right now. So the price actually would be the same as we're spending for Naviance. So the total cost for this will be $73,522. I'll answer any questions you have.
And just a comment that price is over multiple years.
Correct, yes.
So that goes through to the end of school in 26.
Correct, yes.
Yes.
Madam President, I move that we approve the Zello College and Career Readiness Platform proposal as presented by Dr. Alazar.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 4-0. Approval of pathway subscription.
Thank you. Yes, one more approval. I'm here seeking your approval for pathway subscription renewal. Last school year, our school district was awarded the Indiana Department of Education Comprehensive School Counseling Grant to support effort in the development and implementation of comprehensive school counseling program. This grant included a subscription to Pathways tools from Education Advance. This platform has provided a much-needed system for North Central school counselor to streamline data, collect, and help them to work efficiently to ensure students are on track for graduation. This program allows counselors and administrators to track students' completion graduation requirements to make sure they are on track, and specifically with credit earned toward diploma and employability skills, and also a post-secondary readiness competency. This platform also helps us with student progresses and needs. So during the school year, school counselors at North Central have shared that Pathways served as an excellent communication tool between administrators and counselors, so they are all on the same page with students' progress toward graduation. Because it syncs with Skyward, we eliminated a great deal of human errors that comes with manually entering data. Perhaps most importantly, this program has helped school counselors get more time back, which I'm sure they appreciate that, so they can work more with students. The total impact, the financial impact for this one is $15,200. I'll answer any questions you have.
Board, any questions?
Madam President, I move that we approve the Pathway subscription renewal as presented by Dr. Alazar.
Properly second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Next, we have our favorite agenda item of the evening.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, board members and Dr. Woodson. I am here this evening to request approval of 2 change orders on 2 different projects. The first change order is change order number IN 21002-18 to Smoot Construction GMP for renovation of the CEC ELC project. And the second is change order number 008 to Skillman Davis Joint Ventures GMP for renovation of Phase 2 of the North Central High School. The total financial impact of these two change orders is $288,988 and will, of course, be coming from capital referendum funding. Be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Fensel?
The item categorized as design error and omissions caught my eye, and I was curious if we're keeping a good list of what those kinds of things are, and I assume that at some point, if they tip the scale, that we would try to pursue recovery of those kinds of things. Is that the case?
That is exactly the case. We do track each and every one of these change orders that has come before you over the last years and identify what we call a cause code on those. So we track them and helps us understand where the projects are doing well and not so well. And it helps with our design selections and evaluations as well. So to answer your question, yes, at the end of every project, we will sit down with the design team, review all of the issues that are design related, and resolve it per industry standards.
Which might involve recovery of some of our fee or a reduction in fee?
It may well if it eclipses the limit of what is considered industry standards.
Yes, okay, I understand. Thank you. There are no further questions. I move approval of the project change orders as presented by Mr. Boots.
Second.
Been moved and properly second. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 4-0. Okay, next we have the approval of amendment number 002, division construction.
Okay, thank you. Once again, here asking approval of this. Actually, I'll comment first. Little unusual here because we're coming before you with items bringing closure to all of the capital projects that are coming at us down the line in the relatively near future. So we are looking forward with those. And as we do at the end of each year, we evaluate all of our consultant contracts and adjust them accordingly to workload and current conditions. And we have done so with Vision Construction Group's consulting agreement for all of our elementary projects. So Vision was contracted back in March of 2021 to provide contract management services to Washington Township for the 2016 and 2020 elementary school capital projects. A copy of that original contract was in your board docs. This amendment number 2 is for the extension of the project management services from February 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2024, when consulting services will conclude. This will provide modifications to the compensation to reflect the reduction in the number of active projects currently ongoing. The total financial impact is $25,000 and will come from capital referendum funding. Be happy to answer any questions.
Just so I'm clear, like, let's say, not saying it would, but let's say we did not approve this today. Does that mean that consultant goes away, or does that mean we actually just keep paying him more?
Oh, the contract would come to an end at the end of January.
Okay, so the current one ends.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. This is to extend the agreement. Mhm.
Got it. Second question, what does this consultant do that you do?
Say again, I'm sorry.
What does this consultant do that you don't do? Because I realize I haven't been here for all of this, but it talks about construction project management, and I'm like, that's what you do. So.
Yes, of course. Good question. So the volume of work was determined long ago to help supplement the staff that was needed to execute all of that work. And we did that with consultants in several categories. The Vision Construction was for all of the elementaries. We had a consultant as well for all of the middle schools that have been completed. Eastwood, West Lane is finished. Currently, Northview is in the finishing stages. That consultant, Marvin Murdoch, will continue in that role through the completion of the JEL project as well. The other component is the high school that is currently now. And that one, we have a individual on staff that performs those services. So our consultant or our project management consultant is the day-to-day contact between the construction management and the forces in the field and the district and the administration. So that's that conduit that is absolutely necessary to get these projects through.
So Nora's done, right? We just wrapped Nora.
Nora is finishing. It is finishing construction. It usually takes 2 to 4 months to financially close a project and get all the little odds and ends completed. Yes.
Okay. But the only two still open are Nora and Fox Hill, right?
And Fox Hill, that's correct.
Okay. So if we're only active on 2 out of the original 6 projects, it seems like the reduction in fees is not nearly proportional to that.
Sure. So what we've done with the help of Mrs. Smith, and she stepped out, we've subjected, that doesn't sound right, but we've evaluated those consultants' workload with a formula of sorts that she helped us develop. We work closely with her and Ms. Britton Smith as well, obviously, since this is part of operations, to come to a fair and equitable amount. And I will say that in this instance as well, there are still several projects in what we call that closeout phase. Again, cleaning up the loose ends, resolving outstanding issues, things like that, in an effort to make it as good as possible for the school.
Thank you. That's all.
There's no further questions. I move approval of amendment number 002 to Vision Construction Group's consulting agreement as presented by Mr. Boots.
A second.
Been moved and properly second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Oh, one more. Approval of amendments to consultant agreement with Alfie Hernandez for continuation of master facility planning in support of MSD Durban's capital.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. In a like manner, as I noted, we have reviewed all of our consultants. This one is an extension of the contract services for Mr. Alfie Hernandez. We have Alfie with us here tonight. So this is a modification to the consultant agreement to fulfill the need for master athletic facility planning services for all of our secondary facilities. The information provided included the original agreement with Mr. Hernandez and all the supporting attachments. The only modification to this agreement is, again, the compensation level was adjusted in accordance with the active projects and the projected projects through the completion. It is anticipated this agreement for services will extend from January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2025, so a 24-month period. At that time, we anticipate the conclusion of planning services. Like I say, we're looking at the end of the capital projects, of many of the capital project services. So the maximum impact will be $60,000 over that 24-month period. And of course, will come from the 2016 and 2020 capital referendum funding. And I will again just comment that Alfie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this brings a conclusion of about 10 years of service, if not more, maybe, from the original planning of referendum to the conclusion at the end of 2025. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Madam President, I move that we approve the amendments to the consultant agreement with Alfie Hernandez for the continuation of master facility planning consulting services in support of our capital projects as presented by Mr. Boots.
Second.
Properly second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 4-0.
Thanks so much.
Our last action item, approval of agreement with Indiana Online. Dr.
Thank you, Dr. Woodson, President George Davis, and members of the board. I come to you this evening seeking approval of an agreement with Indiana Online Academy in partnership with the Central Indiana Educational Services Center. You may be familiar with Indiana Online as we have used their services in the past for high school courses, perhaps most notably, many of our high school students who take their health classes online over the summer. The proposal that I bring for your approval this evening is for students studying French at Eastwood Middle School to be enrolled in the Indiana Online French 1 and French 2 classes for the second semester of this 23-24 school year. Specifically, 7th grade students will progress through the Indiana Online French 1 Semester 1 curriculum, and 8th graders will progress through the Indiana Online French 1 Semester 2 curriculum. I bring this to you only after having conducted an extensive search via multiple methods to contract a middle school French teacher. The current instructor resigned in the first semester, and we began with our traditional posting via the Washington Township and DOE websites. I believe we also shared the opening in our weekly Washington Township parent message to see if any parents were aware of French instructors in the area. We did not find a candidate pool via these traditional methods, so we then proceeded to work with the Sagamore Institute to attempt to hire a teacher from outside the U.S. on a J-1 visa. You may be aware we have 2 DLI teachers at Willow Lake and a German teacher at North Central High School that we have hired through this process. We had a candidate selected, but unfortunately we were informed by his home country recently that his visa would not be processed quickly enough for him to teach at Eastwood in the second semester of this year. When it became clear this was not the case and it wasn't going to be an option, Grant Collins, our high school department chair, continued through his contacts. We interviewed 2 candidates from outside the state, but ultimately neither would make the move to Indiana at this time. While we certainly understand this situation is not ideal, the Indiana Online curriculum will allow students to continue to receive guidance, feedback, and grades from a licensed French teacher in the state of Indiana. The course is accredited, and it will allow Eastwood Middle School students to progress to the high school with the same world language credits as their peers from Northview and from Wesleyan. Students will report to their French period on their regular class schedule, and they will progress through the Indiana Online curriculum with the aid of an instructional assistant. Mr. Tutton has actually worked and found an IA who is not qualified to teach, but will be in the 7th grade classes, who is a French speaker, so they will have that interaction as well. As we continue to monitor the developing landscape of hiring for positions like these, we will always be mindful of both student enrollment requests for French and our ability to find quality instructors for students. Mr. Doss and the Washington Township Middle School team will be critical as we make important decisions regarding course offerings in the future. Before answering any questions from the board, I do feel compelled to point out the extensive efforts that have been made by Mr. Graham Collins, the North Central Department Chair and French teacher, as well as the entirety of the French department at North Central. They have been incredibly supportive of Eastwood students as they have kind of navigated this difficult time in this teacher transition. And it has been a wonderful reminder of how Washington Township can function as a system to support the needs of all of our kids. They really did an amazing job, and we've greatly appreciated it. The proposal before you tonight would come at a total cost not to exceed $37,000 from the general fund for those services next semester. And as always, I am happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you. Just a quick question. So let's just say that a person is a human is identified to come into the classroom and be the teacher and is a great addition to the team. Can we break this agreement with Indiana Online? Are we obligated for the duration of?
So their license is tied to students. And so the students have a license with Indiana Online. I would say, in all honesty, if we found a live person who was capable of teaching it, we might look at using those services in conjunction, that the students would be able to continue having that online support. We have not worked with CIESC on what that looks like as far as if I had a live body who walked in the door halfway through third quarter. Given what we've been through, I just don't see it as likely. So I probably would say to you, we would tend to lean toward using those services in conjunction to try and get the best out of it for kids. If we were to find a French teacher, though, I would certainly look to lock that person up because that contract would carry into the following year. Absolutely. Yeah.
Go ahead. I just had a couple of questions. Is there any actual, I get that there's an IA there. Is there any live instruction at all?
No. So students progress through that online curriculum. It is somewhat self-paced. They have access to that instructor. They get feedback from that instructor, but it is predominantly through messaging within the system, the teacher providing feedback on assignments that they have submitted. There is not a live zooming in with a teacher or that teacher providing live instruction during the day. They can meet with the teacher, again, as long as they work appropriately with parents to meet online and do all that stuff. But yeah, so they can see the teacher, but the teacher will not be zooming into class to teach a lesson on that day.
Okay.
Yep.
And then my second question, I mean, it's been a minute since I've had a child do Indian. Oh,
You and me both.
I paid like a nominal fee for that when he did it in summer school. Is this what you're asking for from the board to cover what parents would have normally paid for summer school?
There would, if a family was interested in pursuing Indiana online, they can certainly contract on their own to do so. And when we do it for the high school health, we do pass along some of that fee to the family. This is a separate structure that they have where school districts contract with them and cover the entirety of the student fee. So we would be covering all of the student fee.
Okay, Ms. Fry.
Just out of curiosity, what have you guys been doing since the teacher left?
So she resigned her position, remained in the position for a stretch. Then the high school teachers designed curriculum and actually recorded lessons and did some things. And so we've been doing something somewhat similar, but probably not quite as codified, which is why we want the students, by doing this, the seventh graders will progress through the first semester curriculum, which is generally what we cover in that seventh grade year regardless. And the eighth graders will do the full. There will probably be some repetition that some of the kids, as they're working through, will see some things that they saw earlier in the year through lessons and all of that. But yes, they've been cobbling it together with support from an instructional assistant, one of our licensed interventionists, along with, like I said, the high school teachers designing. And the high school teachers have zoomed in periodically to deliver some live instruction to the kids, which has been awesome. It's been great.
Well, then that leads me to another question. Sorry. Did you, and I'm sure you did, but did you explore, like, would the high school teachers be willing to continue to do that for an additional stipend or something?
Yeah, they would not have been able to handle the full load of the classes. I mean, they were recording something that could be then played for the periods and all that stuff, and we weren't positive about then that carrying the high school credit with it. This felt like a better option. It was discussed, but I think we just felt like it was just too much to ask the high school to try and carry that. They were phenomenal for about a 6-ish weeks, but to do that, there's a point where assistance becomes burden, you know what I mean? And I feel like second semester all year would have been a lot to ask. Yeah.
And last question, and I acknowledge you don't have a lot of options here. So, I mean, I'm asking all these questions, but I do want to acknowledge that it's no secret, my opinion, of the quality of Indiana online. So has the French department at North Central have they actually looked at the content of it and kind of said, yeah, we think this will be, that it lives up to our standards, that it's quality of any kind?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously the standards review, that it does cover the standards. I have not asked Mr. Collins to go through and walk through the entirety of what's presented to students and all that stuff. The standards have been present. And like I said, it does meet that. We did get a a second bid through another company. And I will tell you, I would be embarrassed to tell you what that number was. And you would laugh me out of this space if I told you what that number was. So we did look at another organization, but it was cost prohibitive and didn't seem to offer higher quality commensurate with the higher price tag, I guess I would say. But we did look at more than one.
I appreciate knowing that you did look at another vendor. Thank you. That's all my questions.
No problem.
I'm definitely curious about that, but we will leave that.
Happy to follow up in the future.
Madam President, if there are no further questions, I move approval of the agreement with Indiana Online as presented by Dr. Kaiser.
Second.
Been moved and properly second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you, Dr. Kaiser.
No problem.
Conclude action items for this evening. Dr. Kaiser is still up at the mic. Our first info item is district strategic plan mid-year update for priority 2.
Thank you. So once again, Dr. Woodson, President George Davis, and members of the board, I come to you to provide a mid-year update on the progress of strategic plan goals 2A, 2B, and 2C. This will be the first of several updates on strategic plan goals over the next several board meetings. Specifically, I'll be referencing information and data that is present on pages 19 through 29 of the district mid-year quality assurance review document that is available in your board documents for this evening. As you can see from page 20 of the document, goal 2A is our aspirational goal of aggressively pursuing strategies to hire teachers and administrators who represent the community we serve. Indicator 1 of that goal was put in place when we found a discrepancy between how candidates of color and white candidates reported hearing about jobs in Washington Township. At the time this indicator was chosen, we found that recruitment by an existing employee was by far the most common way that white candidates heard about jobs in MSDWT, but that percentage was substantially lower for candidates of color. Also on page 20 of the document, I'm pleased to report that upon our mid-year data, we are on track to achieve this target for the indicator this year. The target for 23-24 is to have 45% of our staff of color report that they heard about their job from an MSDWT employee. At this mid-year point, 8 of 17 certified staff of color that we hired for this year have reported that they heard about the position from a township employee. This means we currently sit at 47% for the year and are trending toward reaching our target of 45% at the end of the year. I believe this to be evidence, to be a reflection of the conscious work that has been done in the area of equity and inclusion that has led our staff of color to feel valued and confident in their roles as educators in Washington Township. The natural byproduct of this work has been that staff of color are excited to recruit others based on the work that is happening here. We've also seen an exciting trend of building principals recruiting MSDWT parents who are teachers of color to come teach in their home district. Additionally, I'd be remiss if I did not highlight the work of our superintendent, Dr. Woodson, who is never shy about connecting with a teacher and encouraging them to come to MSDWT. If you are an educator who gives an impressive presentation at a conference, she will come get you. Our second indicator for goal 2A is present on page 21. This indicator set a target of 15% of staff of color hired reporting that they were recruited by a website, an event, or a recruitment fair specifically targeted toward raising awareness about our jobs among candidates of color. Unfortunately, of our 17 staff of color hired so far this year, none have reported being aware of the job through this type of event. This area needs attention if we are to reach our goal by the end of the year. Based on that, we will introduce 2 new strategies in second semester. First, we will utilize funds from our Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Grant to specifically target recruitment among students at HBCUs who are from Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Columbus, St. Louis, and Chicago. The idea there that we found is through data nationwide, we can go down and attempt to recruit kids who are at HBCUs who are from Tennessee. It is unlikely that they will want to migrate to Indianapolis, even if there is a teaching job. The idea here is if we can find students who are currently studying at HBCUs who are from Cincinnati, Columbus, Indianapolis, Chicago, and St. Louis, they are much more likely to come back to a job in the Midwest. So the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Initiative grant does provide funds for staff members to focus specifically on that recruitment, and that will be work done in the second semester of this year. Additionally, we will have recruitment events specifically for our staff of color here in Washington Township that will be gatherings of our staff, and eventually they will be encouraged to bring other staff of color that they know of who are not currently on Washington Township staff in order to have them meet with folks from the MSDWT HR staff in order to encourage them to apply for positions. So those will be two new activities in the second semester targeted toward that goal. If you look at the top of page 24 of the document, you will find goal 2B, and it details our goal of reducing resignations of effective and highly effective teachers in Washington Township. As you can see from the data as it goes to the top of 25, we were trending in the right direction in this goal area in 2020, 2021, and then in 21, 22, and 22, 23, we saw sharp spikes in teacher resignations. As you are also aware from my past updates, we made no adjustment to these goals despite what many dubbed the Great Resignation. And I attribute the lack of progress in 21-22 and 22-23 to trends that were mirrored nationwide and did not have a lot to do with anything specific here in Washington Township. Having said that, we entered 23-24 cautiously optimistic that some of the impacts of the pandemic had normalized and that we would once again see progress in this area. I am extremely pleased to report that we are trending back toward progress on this goal. As you can see from the data, last year's percentage of resignations by effective and highly effective teachers was 13.4%, and our current percentage is at 8.6. This percentage will obviously increase by second semester, but I am pleased to report that while we certainly will not reach our audacious goal of 7% that we targeted pre-pandemic, I am confident that we are trending in the correct direction and we will come in well below our percentages that we saw in the last 2 years. I'm also extremely pleased to lift up for your review 2 data points on page 26 of the document. The first is that our resignations by effective and highly effective certified staff of color were significantly less than resignations of effective and highly effective certified staff as a whole. Resignations of effective and highly effective staff of color were 3.2%, while the overall resignations of effective and highly effective certified staff were 6.8%. Additionally, as you can see from the bottom of page 26 and the top of page 27, our starting salaries continue to remain competitive with surrounding school districts in Marion County. Of the 10 schools documented on the document for our starting salary for a teacher with 0 years of experience, we are the same or above 7 of the 10 schools. If we add in the $2,000 worth of flexibility I have to use, we can effectively match the starting salary of 9 out of 10 of the districts detailed in the document. Finally, I have no update for strategic plan goal 2C related to data at page 27 of your document, because this goal tracks progress on our annual teacher and staff survey that's conducted via Panorama. I don't have any new data because these surveys are conducted in second semester. I will have that at the end of the year for you. However, I did want to provide 2 updates simply on the logistics of that goal. One is that this year the survey will be given in February rather than our traditional timeline of April. Please know that it's ideal to gather that data at the exact same time every year. However, due to the timing of our contractual relationship with Panorama, it was decided that the survey needed to be conducted in February instead to meet a contractual deadline. And this concludes my mid-year QAR update on strategic goals 2A, 2B, and 2C. And I'm pleased to answer any questions the board may have at this time.
Board, any questions?
Thank you.
Mr. Kaiser? Anything else for the good of the order? Not?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.